If you're watching this video, then you are one step closer to the change you desire and the life that you deserve. And you have to believe that. You have to, if you're going to experience really lasting change in your life, and I'm going to dive right in, you're going to have to understand that change is not only possible, it is inevitable. The only question is, am I changing? Are you changing in the direction of your aspirations? Do your actions support your intentions? And then, are you kind and considerate towards yourself as you make incremental progress towards a major goal? That's how all change begins. That's how you sustain change. So the first thing is you have to see change as a choice and not a chore. A lot of people make change a chore and not a choice. It's a choice. We are choice making creatures. All day long, we make thousands of choices, most of them unconscious. But if you're going to change your life, you have to be conscious and intentional about seeing change as a choice and not a chore. Now, what do you mean by that, Joel? Because when you make change a chore, listen to this powerful statement, totally changed my life. When you make change out of a chore out of change, you know what you're doing? You are making a problem out of a process. It is just a process. It is a series of events that will unfold over time. If you maintain your mood and your attitude and your awareness, those changes and those choices will create something that you call a different life. Whether it's a different body and losing weight, a different mindset towards your job or your family or children or anything in your life, because we are dimensional creatures. Our lives don't consist of any one thing. And most people that I've met over time, and I was one of those people, I always made a problem out of a process. And since I've adopted a different disposition, I've experienced acceleration in my momentum, and I've had more peace about my pace. So I want to challenge you. If you're going to become a new being, if you're going to become a new person, and you're going to enjoy the journey towards that destination, you must learn to see change as a choice and not a chore by not making a problem out of a process. Because you will change. You're going to get old. You're going to gain weight, lose weight. You're going to have all these modifications in your life. Some are autonomous based upon our biology, and some are deliberate based upon our awareness. And then the other thing is, how do I sustain actions that create change? You have to build in methods, right? This is the age of methodology. You have to create a method that allows you to manage your emotions, right? Because how do you feel about the potential and the possibility of change? Most folks approach change from a deficit perspective. It's like a mountain they've got to climb. And you're already beginning to defeat your desire to be committed to the process. Is change hard? I don't look at it that way. It's necessary. The being that I want to be and the goals that I have to achieve, that I desire to achieve, cannot be achieved by the being that I am presently. And because I recognize that, and it's not that I'm inadequate, I just have to develop my competence, my confidence, my awareness, my commitment. Whatever these qualities that you need to develop, you have to understand you cannot achieve your goals being the being that you are presently. To achieve your goals, you've got to become a new being, which means, quite simply, you've got to change how you see life. Because all day long, you are assessing and assigning and assuming things about life, which means your conditions, what you might call your circumstances. You're making assessments and assumptions all day long about those. And so I want to ask you, do your assessments accelerate your pace? This is not about speed. This is about recognizing that I'm in motion. It is a nature, motion is the nature of life. So you look at motion now, direction. Is my motion, is my motion taking me in the direction of my aspiration? That's the question you ask on a daily basis. And sometimes you have to suspend your judgment because you don't understand the subtleties of movement and of motion. But ask that question. So I'm in motion. I'm not going backwards. I'm not digressing. I might be digressing in my imagination and my emotions and my judgments, but I'm in motion. So then what's my direction? How do I feel about the path I'm walking and the progress I'm making? And most people say, I'm not progressing. Most people, the average person is so negative about themselves that they defeat their ability to achieve the life they desire. Your life is not just your biological bodily functions. Your life is the predominant thoughts that you allow to become the perspective by which you see and how you live and how you move. And if you're not present to your thoughts, then you're sleeping in your life. See, I'm a realist. Like I don't believe in fairy tales. I mean, I like reading fairy tales, and I read at least 2 fairy tales a year because they stir my imagination. They create space to believe in expansion of possibility. So I read fairy tales twice a year. Things I grew up on as a child and the ones I discover as I've aged through life. But when it comes to making change in your life, I believe people need solid and salient means, methods, approaches that will move them one step closer. You're not looking for an answer. That's the other thing about change. Stop looking for answers. Stop looking for the final solution. Stop looking for the magic bullet, the thing that's going to take you from here to there without with a seamless, uninterrupted process. No, sweetheart, change is incremental, is circumstantial. You got to use everything in your environment. I said it this way: you got to use your platform, whatever your platform is, and your greatest platform is your life, your mind. You got to use your platform to transform your reality. You can't talk about what you don't have. You can't use what you don't have. Deficit thinking. You can't use what somebody else has. Covetousness or envy or a sense of inadequacy that creates imposter syndrome. You've got to know that you are adequate, you're competent, you're capable, and all you've got to do is begin to be intentional about how you're thinking about your life. And being this is not positive thinking. This is intentional acting. Positive thinking will get you going, but it won't keep you going because you've got to. Thoreau said, the great writer Henry David Thoreau said, you have built your castles in the air. He said, great, that's where they belong. Now put foundations up under them. So I tell a lot of my friends who are in the religious lifestyle, and when I was into that lifestyle for 35, 40 years of my life, I said, you don't need a miracle. Because in religion, depending upon the sect you're in, miracle is part of the language of that culture. I said, you don't need a miracle, you just need a method. If I get a method, it'll make a miracle unnecessary. So the method of change is a choice, not a chore. I'm always changing. I'm in motion. The question is, what's my direction? And if how do I manage my direction? By deliberation. Deliberation about what, Joel? About my thoughts. And then about my assessment of my thoughts, because my assessment of my thoughts are the conclusion that I've made about my life. And that conclusion might be loser, failure, winner, progressive, any other term you can use to qualify the sum total of how you see yourself, your self-image and your self-esteem. So you don't need a miracle. You don't need a magic bullet. You don't need an answer. You don't need a final solution on jeopardy. Is this your final answer? First of all, your life is not in jeopardy. Something thing about change. Stop allowing your imagination to magnify the negative. How do you do that? Being present to your thoughts. Well, how do you do that, Joel? How are you feeling? Because every feeling is the summation of a conclusion that you have made unconsciously. Every emotion that is dominant, I'm happy, I'm joyous, I'm lighthearted, I'm forlorn, I'm disconsolate, and anything in between. Those emotions are the manifestation of a conclusion that you have made, probably unconsciously, about a circumstance. And instead of unpacking the conclusion, we allow the emotion to become so big to now we are in a state that stunts or stultifies our development for that time. And even that's okay. See, change is not something that happens without disruption and interruption. But you want to be trending in the trajectory of your aspiration. And you can have down days, but I'll be honest with you, at this stage of my life, I have very few down days. In the course of a month, I might have a half of a down day. And you know why? Because I'm not taking that. I'm not going to disrespect the benevolence of life by allowing a circumstance, especially it's not my health. It's not I'm not going to lose my dwelling and the little bit of security I have financially. I'm not losing some family member. It's just some project, some process that's not going the way I want it. I'm not having a down in the dump day about that. But if you have that, good. I can't afford to be down because my personality is so intense that when I'm down, sweetheart, it is like terrible. So I want to challenge you and encourage you. You can have a down moment, but don't have a down day. And if you have a down moment, recognizing what am I concluding? This emotion is telling me I'm concluding something. And once you begin to analyze or unpack that conclusion, you can change the emotion. You don't have to stay in a state that strips you of your vitality, your sense of animation, being alive, your dynamism, your can-do spirit. You were born to win. As a matter of fact, you were born for greatness. As a matter of fact, you have in you right now, as I say in the book with the poster behind me, probably have a different cover for the new being, you have in you, every human being has in them the capacity for immensity, expansion, and transformation. Not only that, you have dormant endowments and dormant dimensions, abilities, propensities, inclinations, skills, talents, and abilities that have not awakened based upon your awareness and your intentionality to find out what am I really carrying. You are more than you are. I can see you. The other thing about change is don't reduce your life to your circumstances. Your circumstances, no matter what they are too small to contain your life. What do you mean by that, Joel? Don't reduce your life to your bank account. Now, I know this hard. This is a world that thrives on commerce and trade and capitalism and money. But I have been broke, homeless, sleeping in my car, one car repossessed, ruined my credit, had nowhere to stay. I did not reduce my life to that circumstance. As a matter of fact, I was journaling through that circumstance. And the journals that I wrote became a book that won me $10,000 a couple of years later. And I used that to get my life on track. But the whole time I was homeless, I did not reduce my life. I said, Joel, you bigger than this, you better than this. That's the other thing about change. What's your self-talk? Because your self-talk is your constant play by play. We all watch sports and they have announcers, and some are better than others, or they call them color commentators. You are the color commentator of your own circumstances and condition in life. So what are you commenting? What color are you painting your conditions in? What's your commentary? What's the running narrative in your life about your circumstances? Don't reduce. You say, well, Joel, how do I do that? Find something to be grateful for. But I don't have anything to be grateful for. You must be deaf, dumb, blind. Shouldn't say that. My brother's blind. I don't mean any disrespect to people. But if you can't find something to be grateful for, then that says you are functioning from a deep emotional deficit of self-esteem. And that's okay, because my self-esteem was in the pits for over half my life. And I decided I'm not living this way. As a matter of fact, you know what my favorite quote that I used to live by? When I was 16 years old, sitting on my parents' porch. It's a quote from Shakespeare's play Macbeth. And Macbeth says, and I believe this. He said that life is a tale told by fools, full of sound and fury, yet signifying nothing. Or in the words of King Solomon, vanity, 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 all is vanity. That was my mantra for years. I was so depressed. I was suicidal. I hated life. I said, George, you got to change, because you won't make it if you don't change. You're going to leave here prematurely. And so I stopped seeing change as a chore. I started as a choice. I stopped making a problem out of a process. I started being present to my thoughts. I realized I was always in motion. I said, well, Joel, manage your direction. How do you manage your direction? Set goals. Well, Joel, I set a goal. Now I'm not getting it. Have you stopped? Are you still trying? Well, then you're going to get it. Don't quit. See, and another way to make change, sustain change, I'm giving you a lot here. I hope you recognize this. You have to be non-negotiable. I'm not negotiating my goals. This is no negotiation. I said, Joel, when I was a child, my mother told me you always said this. And I don't say it now because I'm doing it. I said, when I grow up, I'm gonna be. And I was teaching college. I used to ask all my students from all over the world. I said, in your country, in your culture, do y'all make the vow of greatness? He's like, what's that, Professor? I said, do y'all say in your country? And I always had these 9 or 10 students from in every class, 4 classes. There's about 36 students from different countries. Do y'all make the vow of greatness? And they say, what's that? I say, do y'all say when I grow up, I'm going to be? They say, yeah, we say that. Well, I made that vow when I was an adolescent. I said, when I grow up, I'm going to be. It's not negotiable. When I was homeless, I said, I'm going to be. When I was unemployed, I'm going to be. When I was underemployed, I'm going to be. When I was overemployed, I'm going to be. When I was overwhelmed, I'm going to be. I'm not negotiating that. That's why at this age of my life, I'm still optimistic, energetic, and I am persuaded. But it's not about me. It's about you. What are you persuaded of? Are you using your goals to manage your direction? Or using your goals to discourage your action? Because you're not moving as fast as the person beside you. Man, I suffered that for years. I thought by now I would be on a mega world platform. But you know what? I am not negotiating. I am not sitting down and reconsidering my intentions, because I didn't make them lightly. And I don't, if I didn't make them lightly, if you don't make your goals lightly, then don't take them lightly. Don't talk yourself out of what you desire for your life. You deserve better. You can do more. This is not, I mean, it's true. But I can't choose for you. And a coach, a mentor can only do so much for you, because when they get through coaching and mentoring, you've got to get out on that floor, in that field, in that classroom, whatever your domain or dimension you function in, you've got to get out there and you have to perform. And guess what? You can perform. You can have performance anxiety, but you can perform. You can win. Most people, and I'm speaking in hasty generalizations, you never want to do that when you're writing, but most people live a life that seems disingenuous. They'll say, this is not what I signed up for. And they're wearing, and they learn to wear, we say they wear a mask. I say, no, we wear costumes. We are fully body dressed in a costume, playing a role that erodes your greatness. Playing a role that erodes, eradicates, eliminates, and validates your greatness. Calls into question your greatness and your goals, your desires and your desert, your merit and your ability, your competence and your talent. No, that's a costume. That's a lie. You were born for greatness. Shakespeare said it this way. I don't believe this truth of this statement because nobody's born great. You can be born privileged. He says some are born great. They are born privileged. They're not born great. Great's a verb. Some achieve greatness, absolutely. And some have it thrust upon them. I call that a provisional greatness when life has a set of circumstances that match what you can do, and you're the person for the moment. Some are born great, some achieve it, some have it thrust upon them, and then a lot of people just wearing costumes. If do this, grab a pen either now or later and write the word costume on a sheet of paper. Costume. And then I want you to take your pen and put a slash at the T. Cost/. Then I want you to take your pen or your cursor, I should say 23rd century now. Take your cursor and put a slash at the U. Now you look at the word costume. Every time you're not being who you are, you're not living an authentic life, you don't have authentic, autonomous, self-determined goals, you're wearing a costume, I'm wearing a costume, and I'm toasting you and me. What could the world be like if you became who you are? What would your family be like if you became who you are? What would your community be like if you became who you are? What would your job be like if you really began to demonstrate the native genius and greatness that you have inside of you because you know you have dormant endowments, abilities you never even used before? You have dimension, dormant dimensions, places in your soul or your psyche that you've never even tilled or toiled or tended to see what's there, what's growing in there, what can grow there. Don't wear a costume. If you're wearing a costume, you ain't got to take it all off at one time. You don't have to go to work tomorrow and quit. That's what I did. Don't do that. Don't do that. Destruction, devastation. But you don't have to take your costume off all at once. Maybe just start by taking off the mask in your mind, the lie you tell yourself that you can't and you're inadequate. You can do anything you set your mind to. I believe that. This is how you become a new being. This is how you change your life. This is how you go from why to wow. 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 You can do it. And finally, you have to have radical, you have to choose to have radical self-trust. I don't know the answers to most questions that I'm asking myself. And I use ChatGPT and it's pretty good. But when I get the answer, I got to live it. I got to believe that, Joel, you can do this. You have to have radical, you have to choose to have radical self-trust. The word radical means root at the baseline. You got to know I'm bigger and I'm better than this. I'm not going to make change a chore. I'm not going to make a problem out of a process. I'm going to develop methods, and I'm not going to look for a miracle. I'm in motion. I'm going to use my goals to direct my motion. I'm going to be present to my thoughts, which is my life. And when I realize I have a negative emotion, I realize I've just made a conclusion unconsciously about a condition that I'm living. And I'm going to evaluate that, analyze that, and I'm going to reassess, and I'm going to reassign another value to that conclusion, and I'm going to be generous towards myself. And I'm going to believe that I can become a new being. It doesn't matter where I start. It doesn't even matter where you end up. It's where you're headed. Change that's intentional produces joy, optimism, and resilience because you feel good about where you're going and you haven't even gotten there. I want to challenge you today. Book a call with me. There's a link at the bottom of the page. Book a call. I want to spend 15 to 20 minutes with you, and I want to hear your heart. I want to help your hope. I want to give you something because I've been doing this for like 35 years of my life. As an educator, as an author, as a corporate trainer, as a elder in the church back in the day when I did those things. Didn't abandon it. I just broadened it. I expanded. And I'm telling you something. Book a call. Why? Why should I book a call, Joel? Because you'll be one step closer to the change you desire and the life that you deserve. Thank you for watching. Click the link below, and I can't wait to talk with you.